Watch and burn.
Hey everyone, so tonight I want to talk about Mansion of the Doomed. This was directed by Michael Pataki. I can't remember what year this is from. I know it's at some point in the 70s, and like I've said at several points through a bunch of other reviews that I've done, you'd think that I would have figured this out before I hit record, but I didn't. So here we are, not entirely sure when this movie came out. I definitely know it was the 1970s, and the story is a very simple setup. There's a surgeon, and his daughter, her eyes keep failing, and he starts to kidnap random people off the street in order to harvest their eyes and give them to his daughter so that she can see, even though inevitably throughout the course of the movie, the eyes that he keeps giving her keep failing, and he keeps racking up people in his basement that he's keeping in this sort of like makeshift dungeon where they have no eyes. And whereas on one hand you could argue that the makeup could have been better. I mean, the movie obviously had a very limited budget, so I think they did a really good job with all of the people that he begins to collect in his little dungeon basement place. You can clearly tell that their structures around their eyes have been like heavily make-upped so that you can tell where, like, you know, whereas if somebody's missing their eyes, it should be sunk in. It's more like they're puffed out, and that is, of course, because the actors in question never actually had to sacrifice their eyes for this movie, because that would be completely uncalled for. I mean, could you imagine that? You go to a casting thing for some movie, they're like, look, it sounds pretty cool, it's a cool movie, it's a horror movie, could go somewhere, you know, but we need your eyes. You have to be willing to lose your eyes. And it's like you really wonder how desperate a person may be in order before they might consider saying, yeah, fuck it. You know, you need both of them? And they're like, yeah, we need both of them. You're like, well, you know, okay, I'll do it. I can't really see that taking off. Eyes for film. I just don't see that as being any kind of growth market. But yeah, like I said, the makeup work is obvious that they've padded over their eyes. It's still fairly effective though. They do look really haunting, and they're all being collected in this little dungeon, and they're getting dirtier and sweatier as the days go on. And the movie, of course, because of its limited budget, and I imagine nobody really thought about this in the first place, they didn't really focus on the infection rate that would happen. Like, they're living in like this dirty little makeshift cell in the guy's basement, where eventually a couple of them decide to try to dig a hole in the wall to get out, despite the fact that they can no longer see. And I'm thinking to myself, my God, their hands must be filthy. And if they touch like their sockets where their eyes used to be, the infection, it's gonna spread. Like, Jesus Christ, like there's 10 people down there, they'd all be dead. Like, the infection rate would be ridiculous. They wouldn't last a month down there. And I don't exactly know how long they're actually down there for, because it seems like he grabs somebody, he harvests their eyes, he gives them to his daughter, she lives a little, she goes swimming, she hangs out with people, yada, 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 and then boom, they fail again, so he has to go on the hunt for somebody else, and that takes a little bit of time. Now, he is fairly resourceful on the hunt, to the hunt. He always seems to grab people relatively quickly, but nonetheless, his daughter is living her life while the eyes that she's getting from him are working. So I don't know how long. Then there's a lot of people down there. It's like I said, there's roughly 10 of them or so. And the first person that he decides to harvest their eyes from, is ironically enough his daughter's fiance, who I always kind of got the sense that he liked, at least somewhat. But he goes right for him. Like, he's like, oh, my daughter's eyes are gone. Boom, hey, fiance. Cut, 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 boom. He's in the basement with no eyes going, oh my God, what'd you do to me? What'd you do to me? And he gives his daughter her fiance's eyes, which you could write a song about that. And so that's essentially the movie. There's the rinse, lather, and repeat thing at play here, where he just goes out and hunts people, takes their eyes, gives them to his daughter. And the way the movie ends is they finally do, the hole in the wall gets big enough and they bust through, and it ends with them all sort of like scattered out in the street, wandering around, of course, with no eyes. And I do think that the actors may actually have been blinded, because there's no, you see it close-ups enough times to see that there's no dots or anything in the makeup, allowing them to have even like a pinhole's worth of vision. It's like they're completely glossed over, completely make-upped over. So I get the impression that when they're kind of like walking around all like this, their eyes are actually shut so they can't see. So if I'm right, that does make it seem that much more genuine. It's gonna rain. Jesus, is it ever gonna rain tonight? Wow, that's crazy. But yeah, so I think I will stop there. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a little over 5 minutes while I discussed Mansion of the Doomed. If you liked this review, like always, don't forget to do something nice for somebody. And yeah, I'm going to get going before this gets worse. Have a good night. I just wanted to say thank you for making it through the entire video. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to remind everyone one more time, even though I've probably already done this in the video that you just watched, to please click the like button as well as the subscribe button because it helps this channel grow. And thank you for hitting like and subscribe, and we will see you guys really soon.